Hey there, how's it going?
Oh, hi, Derek. Good morning. Happy Saturday to you.
Yeah, happy Catterday, Rebecca.
Good.
I'm really happy to have you on, and yeah, we've chatted a little bit. It's been
Yeah.
really interesting and intriguing to just get in connection with you and the origins of that, as far as like one of as how I feel like my most controversial videos that I've made in regards to like questioning some of the issues with the sacred geometry and all these things, and
You blew my mind.
no way, but
Well, I mean, like, Derek, there I am,
sure.
hitting mid 2000s. Obviously, I've always been me. I always saw the air move. I always knew things. I had the tingling in the palms, etc., etc. And I come from like a family history where, maternal line is very, but my one before me, didn't want anything to do with it. And you question your spark, you question your discernment, and you grow up in this world that's real to you, and of course it is real, and then everything gets overlaid. So cutting back to you and how the heck we found each other. Yeah, I had some experiences where I was given downloads of sacred geometry, pulled into the false, energy siphoned. And this is obviously pre-internet to a degree. This was just when the internet was starting out and whatnot, a little bit further on than dialing up and running the bath waiting for the connection, but still not in today's standards. And of course, all the putting into the false macabre to take us away, which just got imprinted. Where did that come from?
Macabre,
Um,
like Merkaba, right? That kind of
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah. I mean, I've literally, as I've come across the second awakening now, I'm finding notes and books that I'd written which completely correlate. When I was going through, I thought, I'm a fucking nutter. How is this real? And unfortunately, I was in a relationship that was telling me we were together because of a spiritual intergalactic battle. And I went, you fucking nutcase. You're having a laugh, aren't you? You're nuts. Too much doing stuff on a Friday, Saturday night, I thought, for him. But I've always had it, and I've always known. And everything I've done has always been with love. I don't see any other way. Perhaps neurodiversity's got a little bit to do with it. Asperger's, ADHD, extremely sensory, but we can't just put it all down to that, can we? We can just put it down to our truth and then how we try to be misguided. So can you imagine my shock two years ago when I'm faced with a karmic situation that is a replay of my mother and my father and my love and my understanding, but I had to put myself first. And that literally started with higher self saying, remember who you are. And how many of divine feminine, they don't remember who they are because it's an imprint, because we had to hide and we had to go underground. Why isn't the feminine celebrated? Why don't we celebrate things if they're good? Because they're trying to hide us. And they
yeah.
literally, by dissolving the union of masculine and feminine, because before unity of one, we have to integrate with duality to be able to come to source as unity, because we're just divine expressions of one, our own unique individual expression, not to be somebody else, not to be ourselves in truth, our real selves. But that's been hidden. So this little higher self that identified with Freya and then got shown Lilith and then broke and sat with herself and came across actually through doing some other work with the most beautiful, wonderful woman I've met, Shawana. Um, and she had one of your documentaries actually on sacred geometry and what you went through. And it was the same as me. Now, I think you were in Cali, weren't you, at the time?
Yeah, on the northwest coast, Oregon, actually. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, there's a few miles between us somewhere.
Yeah.
So having confirmation like that, your truth was always your truth. and the empowerment and the journey of integrating that, listening to yourself. It's not nice, Derek, and it's not easy. Perhaps it's a little bit easier for the neurodiverse community, and I'd like to link in with that as well with the telepathy tapes. I do think that the non-verbal autistic community have a link, but I also believe us verbal autistics have the link up too. We could sit and daydream for hours. Probably another reason why I was late to the podcast this morning. But there's so much going on, Derek, you wouldn't believe. I mean, I would literally, I will
Well, your
go to
mother
bed
and all
now.
this, right? And all,
Yeah.
so yeah. And that's the thing, like, you don't have all the free time that someone like myself would to, delve deep into,
I was a mum
the
when I
inner
was
work or
21.
just research and all these things, right? So yeah.
But at 21, I was a mum because I felt obviously we've all been on this journey, haven't we, where we're trying to find that feeling physically, mentally, that cleanliness inside, that childlike cleanliness when we were children. It's that grasping, isn't it? And what that is, that's a remembrance of where we come from. We should not be living like this, like they all do. We are human beings, not human doings. Well, a little bit extra as well with a lot of it. But we're here to be, and when we create our own truth within ourselves, and that's reflected outside. And, you'll go about society, say peak rush hour time coming home from work. Everyone's coming home from work. It's the weekend. They're all going to get pissed. They're going to go to Benidorm for a fortnight and they're going to repeat, eat, sleep, repeat. What life's that, Derek? While the trees are screaming, while the water's poisoned.
They've drowned
These
out that
things.
sound. They can't hear it anymore. They can't even hear their own soul screaming, through the depths of their unconscious, subconscious mind field, right?
No, because they run away from it.
Yeah, and it's been numbed out as well, and all these things. Like you said, they taking the
It's
piss or
infants.
getting drunk and whatever, partying, drugs and whatever, right? Yeah, yeah.
It's sovereignty, isn't it? Because anger, the emotion anger, right? Society tells us anger's bad. Why is anger bad? Anger can be a very positive, productive energy. And again, it's just linking back to masculine and feminine. Divine feminine needs to stand in her place right next to the masculine energy. That's needed. That's needed for the power to get up to work, to get our food, to do our shelter, our protection. But we need the balance. So when you're angry, when you're sad, when you're broken, those emotions, those energy that comes from them, we've been told what they are, how we feel, how we think, and what to do, what we're going to do with them. Nobody sits there and says, I'm in pain or I'm angry, and I am going to use this as a productive energy. Because nobody wants them to know that, do they? It's just all kept in that monotonous cyclic loop of siphoning that energy, of keeping it there just for them. Because when we stand in our truth and our own sovereignty, and we're balanced, we're middle path, I'm not going to love and light if you're doing me shit. I'm going to say, no, your behavior is on yourself. But once we bring the woman back into it and everything else around us, and we all work within synergy, then the energy becomes greater. We don't need as much sleep. We don't need as much food. Do you see where I'm coming from? And it's
Yeah, I've lived that. Yeah, for sure. And just real quick, because the way I like to phrase it is, alchemized anger, because so many people, it's so easy to get angry. It's just one of the points of the spectrum of the human range of emotions, right?
It's going to happen, isn't it, Derek? It's going to happen. So transmute it.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. So it's like the temperance, going back to the tarot, even the temperance card and all these things, and how you able to wield that energy that is really potent, is fiery, is passionate, and you have that righteous indignation, yet if you sit and hold onto it uncontrollably, it could burn you and other people up around you. But if you wield it and get that fire wind staff magic, alchemized, it can be used for so much positive impacts, in regards to think about music and things like that, right?
Yeah, well, of course. I mean, as a creator, my pain has made me better. I've used my pain, my anger, as a positive force, as a productive forward force. Quite a masculine force, isn't it? But then I've also, when I started this time around, and I had to sit with myself, I've always been very confusing for people, a bit of a paradox. How can somebody so kind, so loving, not want to submit? Okay, I'm not two different people, I'm one, and that's perfectly acceptable. Just turn that off a second. And I had to sit there, and it hurt. And I had to, because when we run away from things, we don't know what they are. We're scared of them, aren't we? Knowledge is power, and it gives security. When you don't know, you've just got this idea that it hurts. This is going to hurt. I don't want to sit. I don't want to do that. I'll have a drink, whatever. I'll have a smoke. I'll exercise. I'll eat. I'll run away rather than sit and go, this really fucking hurts. And I will take a little bit of responsibility for the way that I've actually not caused it, but I brought karma upon myself by being untrue. If you speak your truth without fear, then that hurt and that pain is beautiful. It is the most empowering, transmutive energy that you could do. But I don't know many people that will go, okay, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to go through this, unless it's forced upon themselves, like maybe grief or something like that. The catalyst for that, sit with yourself, for going, I'm going to admit my part in this and change. We can't expect to be, our best versions of ourselves, connected to source, down to earth continually, to breathe out discernment within who needs us and who's taking the piss out of us, where our energy should go and it should flow. It ain't going to happen like that, but it will, bit by bit, fall off the track, get back on again, get back on again. And the more that you get back on again, Derek, I don't know whether you find this yourself, the easier it is, just like anything. It's muscle memory. It's muscle memory of who we are. And
it's a good muscle memory too.
It's like the pyramids and everything at the moment. We've always known, haven't we, that that's just a top and it all links up. Common, we know. And yet it's all coming out now, isn't it? So the more, I suppose, we get mainstream proof, people like me who were dubious, who thought she was a nutter, it'll help them, I think. Do you?
I love that word and how you guys use it over there. That's funny. And so you're talking about how, it's just like recognizing the laws of causality or cause and effect in regards to any situation, and then accepting your role in it, whatever it was, whatever degree, even if it wasn't at your fault at all, because just pointing the finger all the time, as you were alluding to, it's not really helping one or solving the whole issue and having reconciliation. So there's it's dissolves. It's not lingering on, so it weighs on your heart.
You're only hurting yourself, aren't you? If you've experienced this feeling of pain or anger at something, right, and then you continue to blame another and whatnot, you're never doing it right. So you're always going to go over it over and over and over again. You're never releasing yourself, are you? Because it's false, it's fake. You're lying to yourself. And when you stop lying to yourself and you stand in your truth, then you can move past it. Next lesson, please.
Yeah, and that's word to Mayats, because we didn't come here to just forget all the lessons we learned in the past life and just, recycle the same shit and suffer again. Right, my friend?
That's it. We're causing our own suffering. It's absolutely bloody ridiculous. I mean, I don't know whether we spoke about this or whether you spoke about it. 11% of the brain is used. Yeah. If you're lucky, right? There's so much there that can be used and tapped into that we do remember. We do. Why would we imagine these things? There's no smoke without fire, is there? And again, it just goes back to that false overlay, where you go back to where it really got going again, didn't it? With kind of like America, when us English went over there and started our other part of ourselves.
Fancy old pilgrimage, yeah.
Yeah. Fuck's sakes. I mean, do you know what they did to the Eskimo? Well, the Inuits. I'm sorry, I apologize. It's because of my generation. The Inuits, only like 50 years ago, do you know what they did to them? They took their children off them and said they should be going to a school in a city, and they moved them away from their land. Who has got a right to tell anybody what to do, how to think, or how to be?
Yeah, it's the simple equation of, the art of war. And it's like word to Michael Tsarion, I think, kind of semi-quoting him of, if you cut a man or woman off from their roots, you will have a slave. And so that's kind of, it's just like indoctrination camp, we're over here now, we're going to learn these things, and you're going to be, not really understanding, who and what you are and where you came from and your ancestry and that kind of stuff, and those traditions that were somewhat good. It's really sad. Yeah, it's heartbreaking.
It is. I mean, I have family all over the globe, but my grandmother, she was my anchor, and she's been gone 10 years, and it petrified. I always felt I'd end up alone and abandoned and all this, that, and the other. And I am, but I'm not, because with connecting, with knowing, with allowing yourself to be what you know, it's like a comfort blanket. We're not alone, but we need to know where we come from, what our lines have dealt with, because we do carry that generational imprint. And sometimes we'll go around and we don't know why. But again, I just don't understand why a government. Well, I know why. I don't understand why they do it. I've never understood why another feels that they could take another's life. Why another feels that they feel they need to categorize themselves as better in any way, as a leader. The leaders, the kings, whatever, say, if you go back to medieval times in UK and whatnot, we're king, we own this land. You have to work here, you can't do anything, we will give you bare minimum. And then say they will steal because they need to feed their family, they'll steal some of the crops, and then they get punished. That one that owns everything is causing a situation for that other to do conceived harm, as in steal or whatnot. They created that. And that is just repeated in every single way throughout all of time. And I say, we get back to that lineage, to the remembrance, and we bring that forth for them, for us, for our future, to stop transhumanism, to bring the power back to oneself, to inside. Sorry, I'm a little bit passionate and a bit emotional about it.
No, yeah, I feel you. And yeah, I love it how you're bringing it back. And that's a good segue to kind of, yeah, it's like remembering who and where we actually came from.
Yeah.
As I mentioned before, in regards to like before the scene massacre and the fall of Atlantis and that kind of stuff. And before magic became corrupt, and ancient Kemets that was kind of like the epicenter of Atlantis, and so that's where all the 12 tribal race lines of humanity were all in
See, I thought
unity.
I was nuts for thinking that back in the 2000s, but this is what has got to be remembered
Right.
and not believed to be nuts. I mean,
So what did you
the innate
remember?
fear of open water. Why was I so scared of water? And the sadness of our people perishing with the waters because we were betrayed and the divine feminine was taken. But then to relocate back to Egypt and then to see the fall again. And then we are literally talking a lot of divine feminine, and this is where, witches come into it as well. I know obviously you'll have a lot in America, but Pendle Hill and the Lancashire witches. There's a lot of pain there. There's a lot of ancestral pain. It's men. Not all men, Derek, but the men that want to take the power, that aren't from here they're just continuing that. Do you know what? If they just said, look, we fucked up, we're sorry, we should never have done what we did, we made a mistake, and it all dissolves. But that isn't going to happen, is it?
No, because a lot of these leaders, they're not even all that human.
I'm talking about the other ones.
Yeah.
Off in their bubble.
Ha!
Never going to happen, is it? I mean, again, but it's never going to happen because, the information is not out there. You will go and you will see T-word man. Yeah, I don't even like to say his name. I don't even like to look at the fib.
Oh yeah.
I
talking about the flip off.
Fib off. I mean,
yeah.
I felt so had. Do you know what I mean? By all of that. So all we can do is, for us to remember, bring our divine feminine back. Listen to yourself. Nobody else. You don't need to listen to anybody else. You know yourself. But you do need confirmation. You do need connection. Because otherwise, what have you got? Your woo woo. Yeah, you just woo woo. And you're not going to get very far with that. But the more that this is put there, and the more that it's out. I mean, beautiful Ms. Dean. We're all in a position where we have to be very, very, very careful. Very careful. That we listen to ourselves and we don't take anything else on. But it's perpetuating. I don't think there's an awful lot of truth out there. Yourselves, obviously, as an organisation. This is where we need to be heading. Not looking to false gods.
Yeah, and even some of our, leaders, such as Ashiana, they're anyone who's speaking at this high level, they can be targeted. They've suffered hyperdimensional warfare.
Yes.
And like things that we don't understand or fully have heard the whole story in public, because there's a lot of things in people's lives that aren't really shared on flipping YouTube and whatever, right? So yes, as far as what I've heard, with the Ascension glossary and that kind of stuff, information is great, pre 2012 type of stuff, right? And her books, Voyagers 2, those were written in the early 2000s. And there have been other folks that, are speaking on those levels that have nothing to do with her, yet they're coming to the same conclusions and have, I don't know, tapped into some kind of ancient memories within themselves, past lives possibly, or whatever. But yeah, there's common threads in even, taking it to Maldek, right? With
yes. Yeah.
shattered consciousness, and what's the remnants of that with regards to asteroid belt and even the
Yeah.
moon and the rings of Saturn, right? So yeah, it's really interesting, and it really humbles your soul and kind of initiates more of that retrieval of your soul in this life and incarnation that's been compromised, obviously, because coming through the nets and the phantom matrix with the Saturn moon matrix, all that stuff, right? So yeah, it's like we're
I've
suffering.
written about Black Sun and Everett back in 2006, 2007.
Mm,
The whole hierarchy. What do you say? Was it shown to me, given to me? I don't know. I don't know. But if we look on the flip side of that, Derek, must be something going on quite big, isn't there? If they are trying to warp and infiltrate in the way that's happened since 2012.
yeah, that was a really interesting activation I had then, where it's like and it's like what I was getting at is like, we're all kind of suffering levels of cosmic amnesia, and some
Yeah.
of that got shooken up within me, and so it's like trying to recollect those things and kind of like, all right, did I activate some of my DNA, that kind of stuff, or what? Because I've never been the same since, and all this stuff, and it's just like I'm operating on higher levels. And as you mentioned in the beginning of, yeah, it's like I don't need as much sleep, I don't need as much food, and all that intake. It's just like you're entering into more of a light body mode, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And do you not feel, to a certain degree, cells themselves within yourself have got lighter since then? Like your cells weigh less. There's
Motion detected at the front door.
it's
Yeah.
like
Oh,
we
shit.
become more holographic. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So our actual structure itself. Um, I'm interested in silica with that, but that's another topic for another day. I do feel that it goes back, I think, doesn't it, to ants being on the grass. It's a flat Earth, because they don't have the perspective. You know, prehistoric man being trepanned in his skull because the demons need to get out and it's a headache. We just we're at that part where we just need to pull further and further and further back, higher. The dimensions are there, aren't they? It's just what we're able to access at the moment. Personally, I think we can access, and we always have. Again, it's false. It's an overlay that this is the world. Not this is all an illusion. How can I be sat on a solid thing when it ain't even solid? Every single little atom in the wood that I'm sat on it's holding on to each other, but it's trillions, billions, zillions macro. So that your own ability to be able to break down reality around yourself, once that kind of like snowballs a bit more and whatnot, surely I think, veil as such will be becoming thinner, which another topic since the fog, has it come a little bit thinner there with you?
Fog. What kind of fog?
Since we had the fog, has the veil lifted with yourself? I got a moustache again.
Cheers.
But yeah, I have noticed where kind of like that imprint of people doing what they're doing, houses, structures, all of that, that this is what we live in. It's phasing a little bit.
Oh, okay, okay. I thought you were talking about more, some kind of fog that's been kind of like physically geoengineered type of thing.
Yeah, I am. I'm talking since then. Right? Do you remember when we had our massive fog thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we spoke about that, didn't we? Okay.
Yeah.
Since then, do you feel that? God, because I am a newbie, aren't I, with language. Do apologise to them all for me. I can talk about photography. No, since then, I would say that the artificial imprint with the grid work where they've taken the holes, I think, I see, I feel our grid work is stronger. Our gaps are being filled with golden liquid light. And I feel that our actual physical, what they've imprinted onto us, is getting a little bit in that point where it's not quite as solid as it was since the fog.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah, I I haven't really kept that in mind in correlation to just, the, shifting of the, equinox and all that. And, I mean, we're pretty much in Taurus season, but
We are,
just
yeah,
knowing that, Aries with that fire energy springing forth into the
yeah.
new year, right?
And Leo,
For reals.
Leo in Mars and everything. It is, of
Yeah.
course, it's spring. It's, it's lighter. But I just feel that maybe this is just my thoughts, and if I'm putting this out there, maybe somebody else might be picking up on it and going, yeah, I felt the same. Since then, I think perhaps maybe a bit more of us have been more consciously focusing on our breath work to come back out of our heart. And I do feel that our grids are getting stronger, that we are healing some of the gaps, some of the tears, some of the holes. By that, I think that in turn is making reality not as real, not as anchored. I feel we're anchoring in the next dimension by what I can feel and see. Don't forget, I walk an awful lot, don't I? I'm a photographer. I'm a blogger. Did I mention I'm a top 40 UK landscape photographer after 25 years?
Yeah, I wanted to mention that in the beginning, but yeah.
Yeah, I might have done a bit, mightn't I? Yeah, so I'm looking for detail. I don't understand the world. I don't understand people. So my whole life is categorizing, getting everything into a category. Okay, so I know I can expect. I've got a feel of certainty if I can categorize things. I'm hypervigilant, whether that's trauma-based, relating to ADHD symptoms later on or whatnot. Don't know. I'm not going to go there today. But I notice I'm looking, I know when they chop a tree down, and I'm like, I can tell. And I am definitely noticing out there that there is a feel within the energy of the air is so, God, look at me back. And that is correlating to me that we are actually beginning to come up again into the next and fifth dimension. I feel the structures, the imprints of their reality that they want us to live by will dissolve. As long as we all kind of like just keep doing what we're doing, isn't it? Individual, stop looking for a guru, stop looking for somebody to tell you what to do and what to believe, work in your own truth, connect. And it's personal responsibility and equality with all around, isn't it? So that's what I think is happening at the moment. I might be wrong. I do think a lot of the divine feminine have just been smacked in the fucking face and said, wake up now, bitch. We need you. No, I do. I mean, like,
Yeah, please, let's go with it, because I know you only have like 5-6 minutes left, right?
yeah, I'm watching my time. Yeah, unfortunately, I am a mom. I've got a 12-year-old.
Yeah, it's all good. You can
Yeah,
do a part 2 or 3, 4, or whatever's left in store. So,
yeah. I want
well,
another
not
one, really.
more.
I do. I think I could. And I've got a 26-year-old as well. But yeah, I've got to get on with life. I'm sorry. I want to come back and do some more. We can link in. If people resonate, just can they pop something in the comments, please? Because I say the divine feminine being woken up, she has been smacked round the face, and it's not the divine feminine that you think, the love and light, sorry, that's my Alexa. I've always linked in with Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene. Going down to Templar nights, and I I'm still yet to really sit with that and discern. But I think a lot of the pure had to learn the dark and had to go, yeah, this is actually who I am as well. Again, we're going back to imprints. I don't like Disney. I don't like nursery rhymes. Sugar and spice and all things nice. Rebecca, just be a good girl. Fuck you. I will be right. I won't be a good girl just to make you comfortable.
Right.
I will be truth. You know, if I want to love, I will love. And you won't. You know, you won't criticize me or make me feel shit about myself because I'm sensitive and I'm kind and I worry about animals and I say fucking catfish that are hooked in the sea, or, you know, a wild bird trapped in a cage and I let it out because he's got stuck, or I cry because my cats have been run over and I wasn't there to hold them. Their mom wasn't there. But, you know, if I think you're doing wrong, you know, I will stop and I will say, you know, I don't apologize. Nobody should give a shit about other people, what they
That's
think of
sacred
them.
maternal energy too. You know?
Yeah, how strong is it? You know, I mean, like,
fuck. Yeah.
you know, we create life. Yes, we do need you for that, but we grow it. You know, I have got the
Yeah.
smallest boobs in the world. I fed my child for 2.5 years.
Hell yeah.
You know, yeah, I could hoover and feed at the same time. And yet you tell me I'm stupid, I'm thick, I can't do this, I'm crazy, I'm emotional. Don't be silly. And
Yes.
yet, oh, for fuck's sakes, women, wake up.
Yeah.
Wake up
And
to
step up
who you
into
are.
the.
You are everything, and that's okay. You are dark. You know, you are love. And that's brilliant. You are your own dark. You know, I know I'm a fucking bitch. When I feel unloved and rejected and hurt, I lash out like a wounded animal. That's who I am. I know I will use somebody that's pissed me off as a form of competition to make myself better. I will be better than you, type of thing. If I admit this to the world and to people around me, it's who I am. It's who I am. It's my expression. You know, and then it is a truth. And once you stop hiding from your darky bits and your, you know, like your sexuality, you know, don't get me started on that. Then,
Yeah, it's the
you know
shadow
what?
integration, right? You know,
Yes.
admitting that we have the potential to be like the, you know, participate in the most ultimate evil here on earth. Yet it's just a potential, and you have to reconcile with that, and you know, shift the polarity and reconcile.
Bit like intrusive
You
thoughts,
know,
isn't it? You know, when like, what would happen if I jumped off this building or drove the car into this tree? Intrusive thoughts. Yeah. It's just the same type of thing, isn't it? You know, you have your brain, your mind ain't got to say. Your higher self needs to be directing that mind, and it can. This is an amazing piece of equipment. This, aren't we bloody lucky, you know, to come and experience in the physical. But this up here can tell it what to do. And all of it is a possibility, isn't it? It's all about which way you turn, your personality, your traits, you know, the sliders of traits.
ah,
You know, I might be like this, but I know when I don't sleep properly, don't eat properly, as in eat shite or, you know, that fast food, that convenience. But I don't care for myself in every way, a bit like an alcoholic on a 12-step program afterwards. If I don't sit with the things that I love, like my trees or my animals, or just smell the grass or warm sunshine on me, if I don't express me the way I am and bake my cakes or do my garden or sit there and look at the fucking squirrels and go, oh, look, he's so fucking cute. You know, if I don't do all of that, I'm not going to be I'm not going to have a very good experience of me here. But why do we not do that? Because of what they're also, I've got to fit in. What can I do so other people can like me? What can I do so other people look at me and, oh, fuck off, innit? You know, find your truth, listen to yourself. Women, we are everything. Bring it all on. Accept that there's a duality, you know, and then once you start working on that, you can only become in balance, can't you? Because that's the progression onwards. And all of that begins to fall by the way. And then you do come to the point where you're, you know, I'm just as important as you, as that blade of grass, as, you know, that bit of sunshine. We all need each other to work correctly in the way that we should be working. I'm just going to carry on doing it the way that I'm doing it, and I'm going to love you and leave you.
Cheers. We'll continue for a part 2 for sure.
We will do a part 2 on this because obviously I've got a brain that goes off in tangents. You know, and there's a lot of information there, Derek. It will slow down eventually, won't it?
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I love what you said, and just, you know, to, I guess, you know, conclude this segment of just, yeah, it really goes back to just remembering who you are, whether you're a man or a woman. And if you're a man, like, remember what you got birthed from. You have a mother, do you have a sister, and all these things, you know, how would you be speaking to them and all these things, you know? And also,
There's a
as a
thing that
woman,
got brought up, wasn't there? I don't know whether it hit Europe, but is it Bear in the Woods? And that was talking about a dick of a man, you know, and what they do. Would you leave your daughter with that bear in the woods?
ha,
You know, I mean, I had my dad's best mate when I was 14. You're 14. Do you want to come for a walk down the river now? Come on. You know, and the way that men looked at me literally one day, and then the way they looked at me the next day when I was a teen. I'm still the same person. And going back to the last episode with the round table, yeah, you know, women, sexuality. I mean, God, I was talking with a friend, and he's never made love to a woman, and he's been married and had relationships, and I said, well, I'm just happy if they're liking what I'm doing, and it's too much energy. It's sacred energy. And yeah, right, come on, we'll do part 2 next weekend or Wednesday.
Yeah, cheers. Thank you so much. And yeah, like, the thing with time, it just sucks because, you know, like, kind of, you know, on a survival mode in a sense, and it doesn't allow women in society to really ease back into their divine feminine essence, unfortunately.
How can I be in my softness?
Yeah.
When I am on my own with no support. My youngest has obviously autism, ADHD. He's anaphylactic to dairy and nuts, so I have to do everything from scratch food-wise. And on Wednesday, we've given the go-ahead for him to go to the major children's hospital to have 3 of his bone tumours removed.
Oof.
He's got a 1 in 50,000 condition called called multiple hereditary osteochondromas. And I knew it, just like I knew with everything else. How could I know? But I knew. And Derek, I want soft, so I give myself soft until. But it's hard for women. You know, I mean, like, it's just society dictating, isn't it? It's what the government wants from you according to what they want at that time.
Yeah, part of the war on the feminine, of course. Yeah.
Oh God, you know, World War II, women go to work. Oh, a woman's got to go to work. You know, she can do this, that, and the other. The men come back. The women have got all the jobs. Oh, let's say that women, they need to be mums at home with their babies. That's what they weren't getting at. They wanted the women back at home so the men could go back to the jobs. You know, and that is the story of government and society. Yeah, and look what it's done to us women.
Yes, it is tragic. Yeah. So, yeah, we'll be back for another round to, you know, bring more solutions. I'd love to hear more of how you work your magic and everything. So, yeah.
Oh God. Okay. Got a big 10 hours in there. But I will give you how I work my magic. I do it with love, and I do it from my heart.
Yeah, I love that.
That's it. It's no matter, you know, I've been treated like a piece of shit. My first husband took 32 paracetamols on me, and I found it. That was after my brother-in-law had committed suicide. And, you know, my second partner, 15 years of trying to make me submissive. Can you imagine? He nearly broke me, but he didn't break me, did he? You know, so I kept my love, and I will still look at somebody. You see, I don't see that. I see in here.
Yeah.
I see the pain and I see what they've been through, but I've had to learn to discern. That's it. And I'm not responsible to fix everyone's. But now I'm in the position where I kept my heart, I kept my love for everything around me.
Oh.
You know, but I also learnt my strength. And I learnt my no. And I learnt my spark. And I learned that all along I was right, and they were just trying to stop me being me. And I wonder why they tried so hard, Derek. Dramatic, isn't it? Okay, right. Love to you. Happy Canada Day, and I will. I'll probably give you a message later anyway.
Cheers, Rebecca. Thank you so much. Take care.
Take care. I'm leaving the room.
Ciao, ciao. Hey there, round two. How do you do?
Round two. Hi, good afternoon, Derek.
Just real quick, because I want people to know that, you know, the reason we linked up is because you were checking out some of my videos, especially one of my more what I consider controversial videos regarding, you know, questioning, the sacredness of some of this geometry and patterns and codes of creation that, were, shown in the New Age movement and all these things. But apparently there's more to it than that. And it's been really cool connecting with you, Rebecca, and having some of these things confirmed, because, I'm still learning about these things. And yeah, tying it into, our ways of being. And, if you're a man, be a proper man, and a woman, being in that proper essence. And unfortunately, within this matrix is really tricky to do that. And, especially for single mothers out there, it's just kind of like, yeah, you got to be having a lot of yang energy, like day in, day out, and all these things. And it sucks that you're not able to like just relax and be in that feminine essence without all this, pressure and all these things. Right. So, yeah.
Well, it's false imprint, isn't it? Because from the very start, we have spoke about this off recording, but the imprints of kind of like as a society, what's been put on us. So it's something that we're subconsciously taking in without realizing, and it's being done to us subconsciously as well, from our parents, with nursery rhymes, the way we're dressed, just all of these little nuances that we're not questioning. Of course, we're not going to question as a child, are we? Because we're looking to the adults around us to scaffolding our learning, our experience. We learn by what's around us, by our reality around us. So, as a child, when the brain's developing, unless you're within that environment, it's questioning, which is normally an outcast from society anyway. So you're going to be shamed by that. And then you want to go and prove that you're normal and you're just like the others. And you're not stepping away from that line of what, society is requiring from you. So you're just caught up in this loop of, I'm supposed to be this, I'm supposed to be that, I'm clinging on by, my pretty nails, doing really dirty, hard, emotional and physical work, and it's so draining, when obviously there's nothing you can do when you're reawakened and you're popped on that path again. You're gonna keep being punched in the gut until you go, okay, I'm listening, and you go on it. But with all of that within society, but, if we link into why it's become like that, and if we can all, as masculine and feminine energy within all of us, regardless of gender, if we can look back to integrating that divine feminine as it was, as we're talking at, really the fall of 400 AD, and when the feminine was brought back underground again, I think we'll find that, the feminine does become softer. There's so much confirmation now where, say that's how we linked up, where, You know, sacred geometry, it is a very in-depth study. You know, I don't pretend to have studied it, but I was given images. And because I've always been more scientific based, going back to I'm proving that I'm not a crazy woman. Yeah. Okay, because I need to be able to prove that. And you can only prove it if you have the knowledge and the experience. So, you know, quantum mechanics, no problem. We can chat about that. But what I'm trying to say is, you know, all of this that was, you know, something that was kind of like, yeah, linked up, or basically like a narcissist or a sadist, you know, somebody who is going to look at you and go, I see your weakness, I see your trigger. And that seems to have been put out to individuals and been used against us. So there we are going, right, we know what we're talking about. We understand sacred geometry. We understand, but it felt wrong. So we came away from it. So again, more of that division between, you know, the divine feminine and the sacred masculine as well. And that has been slowly, bit by bit now, as I'm more becoming aware, as I've experienced over the past 2 years, you know, the divine feminine, she's doing all she can to fill the grids back with light. And there's others doing. So I think that little tiny bit there where we can talk about it's not a synchronicity, it's not a coincidence. It's a stillness, it's a knowing, and it's a listening to your path.
Ooh.
What it
Yeah,
is.
and there's such power within that silent stillness. In that, you know, yeah, I see that as that
But
the
people are
wise
afraid.
feminine essence, right?
Yeah, but the you know, I mean, it's
Receiving.
here, isn't it? I
thing.
mean, because we're not taught to sit with ourselves. You know, I mean, yeah, okay, now we're taught to meditate.
Ha!
We're taught to practice mindfulness. Go hug a tree. Yeah, and that you know, I don't question any of that. You know, I love trees. Trees have always been.
Yeah.
I know why now, but no, sit with yourself. Sit with your shadow. Look at yourself. You know, we're not taught to do that. We're not taught authenticity. We're not taught to be sovereign. We're not taught to look for answers within ourselves. And yet, as within, so without. You know, how deaf, how blind, or how just want to bury your head in the sand as a human race are we, when quite clearly, as within, so without. And yet follow this person, do what this person says. If this person says this is the way we do it, you do that question. Why? Who said that person was right or that was the way? And it's bringing that back in. But as more as, you know, we are healing as a planet. We are bringing the light back in, and it's stabilizing and it's anchoring. So hopefully more chats like this, you know, more people will be reached, and they'll get the confirmation that, yeah, they're not a nut job sat on
Yeah,
one
right.
part of the world with things happening to them, but to go quiet.
Yeah.
Go quiet.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
like that. And to piggyback off what you said, as far as, you know, like anchoring the lights in like that, you know, that pure source
Not white
energy.
light. Not
You know,
white
I
light.
wanted to bring up this slide. And you see like the difference between, you know, the Fibonacci,
Yeah.
which is leaving out the zero and everything else behind it. So it has like a, yeah, for lack of a better term, you know, not to like, you know, put so much emphasis on it, but it's kind of like it's a parasite. This is the mathematics of how a parasite functions in a sense.
Yes.
And this, you could take this
Takes
to
over the
how,
host
and this
and
is
leaves
kind of like
none
the
of the original
templating.
behind.
Sorry, say
Which
again.
is it takes over the host, leaves none of the original behind.
Yeah.
Zero being source.
Yeah, like the cosmic womb, the
Yes.
cosmic egg, you know, 0 point energy, all these
Holy
things, right?
Grail is, you know, quite obviously the divine feminine. That is the Holy Grail that was hidden.
The
Quite
holy
obviously.
chalice, yeah. And so
Yeah.
in regards to, you mentioned narcissism, and
Yeah.
I kind of see this as the templating for narcissistic, you know, it's like the black hole entity of, you know, they need to kind of harvest and be a succubus to other energy sources because they can't, you know, find that and perpetuate it within themselves.
Yeah, through separation, through fear, through separation of self. Once you have separation of self, you have separation from all. Once you have separation from all, you have fear. Because that's not based on love, is it?
No.
So it's, I will always go back to the original of, you know, who decided they needed to be better to have more. You know, we know the original story. We won't elaborate within this video. That's for another day. But it is, isn't it? It's as much as we can see through the veil and be aware, you know, all we have to do is put pointers out. I don't want to tell anybody what to do or how to do it. It's just making people aware within authenticity. And, you know, you can link in, you know, when you look at it and you go, right, 0 point energy field, you know, and, you know, we're given both lots of information from them. 0 is taken away, but we have a 0 point energy field. You know, we need to connect the dots, don't we? For ourselves. Again, coming back to that place of, you know, the quiet where you can hear yourself on your own truth and not question it.
Yeah. You're talking about kind of like just really feeling into your higher self and the higher forces and that kind of stuff, and
Yeah,
not letting your bullshit shadow ego stuff get in the way, and like with all the conditioning and stuff, all these false overlays of
Motion
what we've been
detected at the
conditioned
front
to
door.
or programmed to, you know, think who we are, and like we're not even thinking our own thoughts, and like, oh, this is how you treat a woman or a man and how you're in a relationship because you watched Friends or some other shitcom or whatever TV movie, all these series and all these things, right?
well,
You know,
how
where
many people do you know are in a relationship because it's a tick box? You know, they've got a tick box. They've got a good job. They've got a good car. You know, they do this, they do that. What about, you know, I mean, one of the best things that grabbed my heart ever and, you know, probably keep my heart forever is somebody asked me to come and smell the rain with them. That was it.
That's
That's all
great.
I needed. Or I needed a bit more, but
you know that smell of there's like like a the are you familiar with ozone?
yes.
Right. That's what makes that fresh smell when it rains or after it rains. You smell that. It's like, and it's very beneficial for
It's your
sure. So,
ions, isn't it? It's your
yeah.
ions. So with, you know, we go back to polarity, go back to, you know, the dual part within both. We've got all those positive ions that have been created by what's gone on. Nature comes in, poof. You can smell it, you can feel it if you're still quiet enough, you know, and that's what, you know, people like us, I suppose, are looking for. But when you're in that environment where it's false, it's kind of like, well, you're always basing what you do upon what another will think of it, instead of doing what you want to do because you want to do it. I don't know how to change that. Do you? How do we fix that one? You know, it's get the algorithms up, isn't it, on the channel? But yeah.
Yeah, you're talking about, you know, someone doing things to be a people pleaser instead of, you know, doing what is right, or, you know, actually, you know, operating from their hardcore intelligence because they really discovered their purpose within, type of thing.
But even that's a hard journey, Derek. I mean,
oh yeah, for sure.
We know, don't we? We know. And those first few steps, isn't it, of speaking your truth. But then, I hate to throw this in, you become a bit like a born again Christian, don't you? And you're like, you don't take bullshit. Once you understand the principle that, you know, when you go against yourself, you're producing karma. That's karma. When you go against your own truth for another, You know, we come in service, but we come in our own truth first and foremost. And again, that's all warped. It's all taken into this this false other overlay where it's one or the other. It's either you're in service and you're a good person because you're in service, or you know, you're a bad person because you take, or because you point out people's flaws, or because you stand up for something for which other people wouldn't, but it's your truth. And then it's coming away from that, just leaving to it, that's it. You know, you can speak your truth in love and still be in service, but first and foremost, it's service to oneself, isn't it?
Yeah.
Cultivating, that's hard. That's so hard.
Yeah, that
Unless you're a
takes a
bunch
lot
of
of shadow
monks and
work,
heretics.
alchemy, all these things. Yeah, for sure. It's not a walk in the park at all, and people have to have probably survived, you know, those dark nights of the soul and all that stuff. And being able to excavate that Excalibur sword, or just like
Yes.
of
Yeah.
the pen, that Excalibur pen that's going to write their book of life, because they really stepped into being the author of their book of life, because they found their footing in this world and know what to do at a, you know, good level to, you know, be on that trajectory towards better self-mastery and all these
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
But it's a big ask, isn't it?
Oh,
It's,
yeah.
you know, I mean, like,
Tall tales.
I remember being, what, gosh, probably it's about a 10-year cycle. It's about 10 years ago. Sitting there and going, well, actually, who am I? What do I stand for? What's me? Not what do I do so other people think I'm good, but who am I? Who really am I? I couldn't answer that straight away. It took quite a lot of work to sit with myself and explore, because of those imprints put on again of, you know, within the feminine, all the roles that we have to cover, and there's nothing left for self. Then, because of the way society's been, you know, any trauma, any, you know, generational family trauma that's been put upon us, that, you know, we are reacting and coming from a point of that. You know, it is a big journey, isn't it? It's kind of like, it's one of those, and it does take a brave person. But then, how many people are sitting and breaking in their own pain, in a loop, stuck in a loop, because they can't do that? Because as a society, we won't sit there and we won't talk about stillness, quietness, authenticity. We just jump on either a bandwagon of, you know, God save the king, or, you know, government, or, you know,
Or
when
Netflix.
the other way, and we go off grid and we ignore everybody. And, you know, come on.
Ha.
You know, I mean, it is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, there's plenty of distractions and all this stuff, but yeah, and I'm sure you're familiar with the tarot, and it's really, you know, stepping into the hermit,
Connection detected
the
at the
hermit
front
card,
door.
right? And
It is, and you know, the fear, how much fear, because somewhere along the line we've kind of like been instilled with this image that to be on your own is no good. It becomes fearful. People, you know, they'll get onto a site or whatnot, you know, you can hook up for that night just for a hookup. You know, you've got to fill your time, you've got to do something. You can't sit, because once you sit and your mind goes back to whatever, the imprint of I'm a failure, the imprint of, you know, victim, the imprint of a controller mentality, you know. And if you do look towards tarot, and it's a journey, but we are not taught that. We are not taught to sit, to go to a fear. It's got to be avoided, as we discussed on the first episode. It's got to be avoided at all costs. And, you know, to sit with that fear. Once you sit with it, once you acknowledge it, you know what it is, so it's not scary anymore. But it's a crazy, crazy situation where we've got all of this going on, and slowly, bit by bit, the more that this gets out to, you know, and they link up with yourselves, what have you, as somebody else that's been through it. That's confirmation, knowledge, power, strength to continue doing what you're doing. And I'm sure, you know, your self life does get a little bit easier. More energy.
Yeah, I mean that's the point, and that's what I try to drive across to, like the actual awakening is more of an activation. You're activating, parts of your DNA that were dormant, or just, things that were offline, and now they're, coming back online.
Exactly.
Maybe for the first time, whatever. But it goes beyond just what we research on the geopolitical level, or about whatever aliens and any kind of disclosure that's been milked for fucking decades, and all this stuff that's getting really nowhere,
On a
except for the
basic
next episode
level,
on ancient aliens,
yeah.
right, or whatever,
You
right?
know, if you've got a group of something or other and you want to get this out of the group of something or other, you just want them at a certain level, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And then when you cross these thresholds, yeah, certain things do
Yeah.
get easier. Like for myself, having that frequency shift of, okay, wow, like I can function off of less sleep, less food, and I have just like more clarity, and things are just coming to me more naturally, and the intuition is more, online, and all these things, and
Because you're beginning to, you vibrate at that frequency. It literally is a
yeah,
dimensional shift, isn't it, at the end of
mm,
the day? We weren't made to eat. And the joy of being in the vessel, and going, all right, I'll come down, I'll do, yeah, but I will be able to have that pleasure. It's a pleasure, to savor, to taste, to sensory. It's not necessarily that draconian need of we must do this 3 times a day because that's what we do, and I'm telling you to do it. And I've never worked well eating like that. But the more that I've kind of like chucked vitamins and whatnot to one side and gone more in, right, well, I need iodine, I need shilajit, I need turmeric, the things that I need to get my body working the way it should do, that feeling of lightness, of having the energy. And again, all of that, you'll sit there and you'll go, oh, God, I'm tired, I'm knackered, I've got no energy. Where did that come from? Where did it come from? And then actually, if you sit there and you open your spine up, and we all the way up and down, you actually no, I'm not tired. I'm not this, I'm not that. You need to question your voice. Where's that voice coming from?
yeah, and I'll tell you a quick story real quick, because I've done the Master Lemon Cleanse. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yeah,
It's
no,
a
yeah.
it's a great way to detox, and it's you're drinking like organic lemonade sweetened by maple syrup with a dash of cayenne pepper. You're drinking
I
that all day,
do
every day, and
lemon
then
water, and then I'll do Manuka honey.
ooh, yeah, okay,
That I do mine that way. Yeah. So because the lemon water is actually alkalizes within the body.
yeah. And like I felt supercharged, like I had like too much energy. I became an insomniac, like straight up. Like it's crazy, and it's like you
Yeah.
activate light body mode type of
Yeah.
shit. You know what I mean? And and then so um you get a chance to empty out your vessel, and then when you reintroduce foods, you're able to listen to what your body is talking about when it's digesting. And what I've listened to and heard is that, like, when you reintroduce solid foods, like, oh man, like this solid food's weighing me down, I'm getting tired over here. And so, like, yeah, it's like it, and you can look it up. There's scientific studies of how the body exerts a lot of energy just based off of just digesting
Just to be able
food.
to digest the food.
Yeah.
I I eat more lion like, so I tend not to, I mean, like, no, I haven't eaten yet today.
Ah,
But obviously
me neither, really.
but I don't need to yet.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I'll go and have a bit of fruit in a minute. Yeah, and that'll do.
yeah.
I eat to fuel at the end of the day. And
Mm,
one thing that I have noticed, I mean, I've always loved meat. And I've enjoyed it, a couple of times a week, steak, blah de blah. I can't I can't do it anymore. I just can't put it in my mouth. And it's not even necessarily thinking about it. I mean, this is the girl that drives behind, a lorry full of sheep and realizes they're not going to another farm and starts crying because I'm like, they're going on all the breeze, through the little curly faced hair, on the motorway, and I'm like, oh, and then the realization that they are on their last journey. I don't like that. I don't like that. I've got big feelings. It's not good. We're taking on everything from that animal. I mean, I detest halal. I would never, even as a meat eater, touch halal. I'm sorry, but I would never do that.
Yeah, and it's really so flim flam, like, and people who want to eat halal, because I worked in restaurants in France and like had people throw a shit fit because oh, it wasn't halal or this and that, or that they had a suspicion that it wasn't or whatever the fuck, and like, all right, so your halal meat is like mass produced, and it's just like there's nothing fucking sacred about it, really. So you know what I mean?
Well, what's sacred about a slow death?
They turn the head to the east before they get their head chopped off or whatever the fuck, like, wow. Or they're, stamped, assembly line with whatever fucking the priest says, gives a, like, wow, okay. Like, magical things that happen to a dead carcass from that, I guess.
It's beyond words, isn't it? And that's in the name of religion.
Totally, yeah.
Another creature to die slowly, bit by bit, so you can eat it.
Yeah, and so in context to the divine feminine principle of like the non-violent principle, the non-aggression, sorry for the noise, how does that, there's contradiction to that if we're like eating another animal in a sense.
You can't, can you? It's food. I mean, obviously as a mum, we have to feed our children, we have to feed ourselves, and we do have to eat.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's how you prepare your food. It's how you go about it. Before, I've always come from the principle, when I'm cooking food, I'm doing it with love. I'm doing it because I care, because I'm putting that into the meal for whoever I'm prepping for. And that's just natural, that's just innate. I think maybe kind of like, that gives me a little bit of protective factor, a bit of cover, because that's the way that I go about it. So it's energy, isn't it? Everything's energy, and that all comes down to energy. But as a divine feminine, you create life, you keep life going. As a mother, you sustain your child for, if you choose to go down that route, and whatever. But you keep life alive from your own body. But we're not killing ourselves to do that, are we?
No, and that's the thing, right? My ex-wife, we did just vegan experiments, or it was just vegetarian, even just on the nights. I would cook for her all the time, and vegetarian dishes all night long for a couple of weeks, months rather. And she developed iron deficiency, because women that still have their menstrual cycles, they lose a lot of blood, and so there needs to be that supplementation of that loss of that, the hemoglobin and all these things. So it is an unfortunate situation, and we could take this back to the causal factors of why it's unfortunate, because there has been, throughout the cosmic history chronicles of the attack upon the divine feminine, and women in this realm, way back when, ancient ancestors, the Essenes, or times of Atlantis or whatever, Hyperboreans. There was not this, monthly menstrual cycle per se, or such a devastating, blow to their body and reproductive organs, and it wasn't this 9-month pregnancy either.
It wasn't a curse.
It
wasn't a curse.
No.
Whereas, everything about divine feminine, it's been turned on its head, hasn't it?
Yeah, and y'all have suffered greatly, and it's so heartbreaking. knowing that, you know, it was much better way back when, you know?
Well, it's getting back there again, the more that, you know,
Yeah.
we stand in it. But, you know, we're we can question why we've been cursed as such, can't we? You ask why. You don't just go, oh, right, well, this is my shitload and I'm just going to take it. You know, I'm not daft enough to go, I will go, well, why is it my shitload? And then you look into it further. You know, we know as divine feminine within our, you know, within our hearts, you know, it is there. But I say, when you're dealing with that environment of everyday life and you've got all this construct, this false imprint, until you start to begin to wake up, you're never going to win, are you? You're always going to be stuck in that loop. But no, I believe that the majority of us now who are awakening are looking more, I'm not saying breatharian, you know, I'm not too woo-woo, but you know, what you're putting into your body, you know, whether it be another person that you're putting into your body, physically or mentally, you know, whatever we are allowing on ourselves, we have to take personal responsibility for. You know, and that's where the buck stops, doesn't it? You can go back to the persecution, but that's not going to solve, it's not going to solve where we are today, is it? It's going to give us a basis of, yeah, this is why we are the way that we are, but we do have to take personal responsibility of everything that we are putting into our bodies. You know, there's not a lot we can do about where we live, air that we breathe, you know, this, that, and the other, but there are actions that we can do on ourselves, where who we allow physically into our bodies, and the realization of, you know, again, energetic, what that's doing to us, food, even, you know, makeup, hair products, everything. You know, we're taught to mask, you know, what's there, we're not good enough, we have to put this on to look better. Not because it's a ritual for whatever energies that we're working with at that time. It's, again, going back to everything's been lost in translation. And it's so debilitating as a divine feminine, because you know. But the lesson, I think, is that personal responsibility and being able to take that little step where you're going, right, I will do this, I will do that, I will do the other. Energy grows, energy spreads, energy becomes a collective, and it will outweigh.
Yeah, sprout up that proper positive pendulum, eh? Yeah, swing it in the right. Yeah.
You know, there's you know, the whole life has been a shit show, to be honest. You know, and I've dealt with a lot of, well, I've dealt with the majority of people's pain that they've put on me. And if you can't see things as a positive, you know what you're going to do? We can do it. We've done it to a degree anyway, being held by the throat. You know, we've been persecuted. And, you know, we're still here, and now we're listening and we're reclaiming. So you have that positive spin will only ever breed positivity. I'm sorry, thought does create reality. It does.
Yeah,
You know,
and it could be.
yeah.
Sorry.
Well, I open that box, and you know, I decide whether that cat's dead or alive, don't I?
Hmm.
You know, and what you do, and you know, you can work with that yourself. You don't need somebody to show you how to do that, to do it for you. You know, it's not magic. It's what's there, just because we can't see it. You know, energy, all back again to energy.
Yeah, totally. Hey, it's
Yeah.
not like we can see our own thoughts as well, right? So yeah, this whole seeing is believing. Like, get out of here. That's like some old crusty saying, you know. Like,
Do you know what? I'll tell you a brilliant one that's always bugged me. I don't know whether Europe and America get this, but oh, come on, get with the program.
yeah.
It's all in plain sight. Everything
Ha.
is in plain, you know, and get with the program. No, I'm not going to get with your program. Thank you very much. I've got my own. You know, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, get with the real program after you deprogram from all the bullshit. Yeah,
But
and
yeah. I mean, they did. I think the CIA the other day released, didn't they? Where, you know, we are a simulation, not a stimulation. I had to correct my teenager over that word.
ha.
But that gets released. Nobody's talking about it, are they? You know, so it's just literally so dumbed down. And even kind of, you know, the ones that I feel that are talking, you know, perhaps that environment, you know, we've got all of that, but there's no continuity within it all. You know, they're coming off, you know, we've got to do this and we've got to do that, and we shouldn't be doing this and we shouldn't be doing that. But it's purely focused on environment, on the waters, on the air, you know, the weather patterns that we're seeing, etc. Maybe certain things within the air, etc. Whatever, you know, pollution. But they're not talking about, you know, male and, you know, female energies within that. They're just literally talking about that. They're not talking about how we can come as a holistic approach and bring it all together again. It's Derek, at the end of the day, it's guided the way that they want.
Oh, of course, yeah. They're going to direct the narratives however they want, and they have the counter narratives and the controlled opposition and all these things. Yeah, but the proper position is and it goes back to have you seen the Matrix 4, Matrix Resurrections, whatever?
No, I
Okay,
haven't.
because
No.
I'm not going to bring out many spoilers, but you know, it's really Neo and Trinity getting back together, and them combining forces was so explosive that, you know, that would short circuit the Matrix type of stuff, and that's what
That's what's happening.
that's what I'm concluding of what you're getting at, as far as, you know, male and female really reconnecting on that sacred divine level. That energy is so fucking powerful, and that's what these archonic demonic motherfuckers fear
don't
the
want
most.
us to do. You know, it's the whole aim, isn't it? You know, if we don't let them get together again, if they're not, you know, within their own truth, if they don't remember, it's going to keep going, isn't it? It's a perpetuation of an illusion that has been created by them for their own needs and greed, you know, and the power that, you know, of having things back to the way that they should be. Can you imagine? Well, I say it's happening already. You know, I mean, I've had confirmation anyway of, you know, there I am, you know, we are putting the light back into the grid. You know, I didn't connect with anybody over that. You know, the grid work of the earth, it is slowly filling, and then you do start to connect, and others are doing exactly the same thing and feeling the other lots of us doing the same thing. But I feel within that journey, there's a lot of reconnection with the feminine and masculine energies, coming back into balance of unity, understanding that we are unique individual expressions of source, that we've been fragmented from ourselves and from source, from each other, from all around. And as that becomes healed because of the grid work and because of us getting back and rejoining our energies together, and it is literally that DNA Kundalini spiral of the two energies merging and coming down. And that's coming from source, but that's also anchoring into Earth's heart as well. And then that's just the way it should be. And we just be, but we've got to get there first. The lessons of one by one, of being able to stand in your own truth as you are, to be able to rejoin and connect. And no stopping then, is there? It will be 0-1. 001 00112.
Yeah, how do you do?
Yeah,
And
well,
take it from the
it,
Trinity, right?
yeah, yeah.
That, you know, the sacred pillars, the masculine, the feminine, right? But there's
Well,
that, the bridge of, you know, the unity of, you know, aligning to universal principles and natural laws and all these things, right? That we're, you know, combining forces in unison, and we have that solid foundation in those two pillars, you know, really sturdy,
I would
solid.
be interested to see whether this links up with the coils underneath the pyramids.
Yeah, are they tree stumps possibly? I don't know. I don't know what those
They're
things are,
very
but
big tree stumps.
yeah.
Redwoods and on
That's a
acid,
fact.
basically. No, I because I feel that divine feminine and masculine energy coming together, you know, as I say, it's individual, but it has to be together. And that energy from together becomes that, like, it's not kundalini, it's source energy, all together,
Yeah.
all linked in, anchored. But I believe as that happens, that actually locks together as a key, as a physical key, which I have seen as a pillar. Okay, which I have seen as energy within the grid works across Earth. And I feel that those pillars themselves, you know, okay, they're a physical structure, but the energetic dimensional body of the two getting together, and once they become a key and lock in together, that comes down within the pillars.
Beautiful.
Because that was taken over. That's underneath there has been used to siphon. It's
Yeah.
but it will be regained
Mm-hmm.
for the correct use.
Yeah, a good example in a physical sense would be like the overlays of Stonehenge,
Yes.
right?
Yes, very, very, very much so. Very
Mm.
much so. Have you ever been there?
No, but I'd love to. I've been to Karnak in France. You know that
Yes.
area?
Yeah, I do. I would take
Powerful area. Holy smokes! These giant slabs just, you know, lined up like holy.
I mean,
What were you doing there, guys?
it is, it's mind-boggling, isn't it? You know,
Yeah.
people, this, and nobody goes, how the fuck did that happen? You know, you just take it on board, don't you?
Yeah.
I mean, for goodness sakes. You know, it's like,
Uh,
it is absolutely ridiculous how asleep we are, how blind, how quickly we will not listen to our own truths for what? To fit in, to be part of, you know, so we don't get told off. We're part of the group. We're not going against the rules of society. We're not looked upon as different. We're not a Loki. We're not a Merlin.
yeah, it's all this conditioning, right?
Yeah,
Coupled with you know, this cosmic amnesia that we've been you know, incarnated into this reality, right?
yeah,
It's like
yeah.
we're all suffering from, you know, certain degrees of forgetting our past lives and all this stuff and the actual history of, you know,
It's a
creation. You know,
cauldron of absolute mess, isn't it, to work through? You know, to pick it apart bit by bit. I mean, it's understandable, you know, why it does absolutely mess with your head, doesn't it?
yeah, and you know, it's kind of like this lifelong quest to answer the question of, you know, who am I really, where we come from, and all this stuff. And you know, before we, you know, really got together to do this recording, you know, you had some great messages and sentiments in regards to like the need to really focus on remembering who we actually are and snap out of this amnesia that I just mentioned, right? So
It is. It
yeah.
is. It's listening to your voice, isn't it? It's discernment again. It's kind of like, you know, you have this voice, you know, and it's telling you things that you shouldn't know. you know, or feelings, or however it goes for that individual, you know. But we're not taught to listen to that, are we? We're taught to completely ignore the gut feeling, or the what have you. You know, it's not mainstream. But when you start listening and you start remembering and you start building, you know, and questioning's good on the quest. You know, I mean, anybody who just goes, you know, I can do this, that, or the other, or I am this, that, and the other, or I believe this, that, and the other, you know, without, you know, going, do you really? You know what I mean? Be scientific about it. Go through every single, no, it's not that, it's not that, it's not that, so it must be that at the end of the day. You know, get your evidence, and then you can move forward and your voice becomes stronger. But remembering, how many of us do? You know, it's the people that get that little tiny nudge, you know, and then where do they go, Derek? They spend, you know, 15 years, 20 years pushing it all away because of the New Age movement, because it's all too woo-woo. And then there's another gone again. Perhaps maybe natural law school, maybe might be the way to go. Not Montessori anymore. But yeah.
Yeah. Shit. I had a train of thought, but I kind of forget it. But you brought up some good points, and yeah, it's, you know, it's going back to what you said like almost an hour ago, 30 minutes ago rather, in regards to like finding your silence, sitting in that silence so you can hear those voices that have been shouting to you for ages and all this
Confirmation
stuff.
there.
And it's not just your higher self or your soul and all that stuff. It could be your ancestors, even some of the gods, the Norns, Odin, Thor, Freya, right? All
Yeah,
these
well,
people.
exactly. I mean, Freya for myself. And I have, you know, I've got a lot of affinity with the Scandinavian countries, but also Africa, you know, the Great Rift Valley, you know, everywhere there's a feel, isn't there? There's an anchorage of ourselves. But yes, sometimes when certain energies are needed in your life, they will come to you, you know, and they will bring you what you need at that time. And then they might go again, just like people. You know, they'll give you what you need for your next bit of the pathway. And it's embodying, it's embracing. Again, if you look back to, you know, the journey of tarot, you know, that is just a story of life. That's a story of emotional intelligence, awareness, developing bit by bit through your own truth of sitting with yourself. Hey! But it's more of a Bible than the Bible. Yes. Because we can't expect to go through all those roles, those archetypes, from there to there like that. We have to experience the journey. Only through by experiencing the journey, experiencing it, not being on top of it, not reacting, experiencing the journey for what it is, for removing that, like it's a personal vendetta against you, that this is part and parcel of life. You know, getting rid of that victim imprint, getting rid of the controller imprint, getting rid of the octopus imprint, of those tentacles grabbing you and taking every part of you. It's coming into your own and taking each step of that journey and going, this is who I am. I will embody my anger without shame. I will embody my desires or my wickedness or my dark. And I won't apologize for it, because that's who I am. You know, I'm not going to say I'm not. I'm going to bring it on. But then I will embody the Empress. Yeah, but then I will transmute my pain, and I will
Right.
embody
That's,
my
yeah.
priestess. You know, and I will go through all of these, and it is not a static journey where you're just in one point or another. It is between the Wheel of Fortune and the world. And we're going on and on and on. And once you listen to that and you play by that game of life, how much easier is everything? You know, how much more flow of energy, anything you want's there. You know, once you remember that you can have what you want, once you remember you can do whatever you want to do and really truly know that, because they don't, because there's no freedom. We were given free will. For God's sake, choose it. You know, how ridiculous. You know, we have this opportunity where, you know, we can make decisions, and when, you know, we are aware of what our decisions will do, you know, the implications of doing that will create this, that, and the other. You know, that is free will. You know, free will to keep hurting you, free will to hurt another, free will to poison yourself, free will to take on energy for an instant gratification, free will to be dogmatized by others' views on what they believe is correct or right or good or moral. You know, I mean, like sexuality. You know, I mean, sexuality is the biggest energy, the most powerful energy of love. Who the heck would not want to experience those beautiful, lovely sensations that emit not just from the physical body, but from the heart and the soul? You know, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with it is bloody having it for 10 minutes to make yourself feel loved and attractive because you weren't able to tell you that yourself because you
Yeah,
listened
but
to it.
that's just having sex. It ain't really making love now, is it?
Yeah, but who do you know who behaves in that manner?
Myself?
Well, yeah, hands up. Yeah, of course. But you know, and when you go out into the and you go, well, I quite fancy a bit of that again, or what have you, and then you go, well, it ain't happening. It ain't happening because you're going to get too much of me, and you're not. You're not giving it me back. You're not having this energy. It's not
Yeah,
just
and that's the
body.
thing. It's like, where's the equal energy exchange? And that's supposed to be, part of this, the new earth movement, the heart-based humanity, right? But, who is actually stepping up to the plate and actually trying to evoke that through their actions? Not just, lip servicing that shit, but actually living it, right?
Well, myself.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sat here all on my own. You know, do you think it's
Well,
easy? You know, I've sat on the toilet and hugged myself crying because I just want somebody to hold me. You know, but
aw, of
I'm not giving that away in the wrong reasons and for nothing because it's too much energy. And I've learned
course,
that.
yeah.
You know, you learn it the hard way, don't you? You know, because you know,
Mm.
especially where you live, where you live now and where you lived before. You know, that's sex sells, sex is used, bodies are there, and yet nobody talks about the real meaning behind it. You know, it's all that it's in your face, but it's not in your face.
Ha!
It's all warped. It's all that.
It's on a
You know,
surface level, it's only skin
yeah,
deep, right? Because it's
yeah.
all just, oh, the body and the physical attractiveness. Yeah, that's really shallow. It's skin deep type of stuff. Where's the heart core meanings behind these things in a sense,
And
right?
that needs to be brought out. Tell me anybody. Well, you
Ha!
know, when you have a relationship like that where the energy is involved, I'm sorry, but that is like a million times better than, you know, a one night stand, 2 weeks, whatever, or just for the fact that I've got a boyfriend or somebody fancies me or fucking hell, I fancy myself. It
Have you made love with an awakened man before?
never.
No. It's a fuck.
Controlled man to control.
Ah.
Um, and because I didn't realize that people weren't like that, can you imagine the shock of giving your all to somebody for years? And, you know, because when you go about it, it's, I want to show you how much I care about you. And I've got an opportunity in a way that feels really nice. So why the hell wouldn't you? You know?
Yeah.
And then when you realize that people, it is just literally because they feel they should, or just to get off, or soul destroying. Soul destroying.
Ha!
You know, it is soul destroying to find out that the majority of the population are like that.
It is,
But they've
right?
not been allowed to explore, have they? I mean, they've not. I remember watching a documentary on masturbation, Scandinavia, and she's going
Oh, yeah.
round. You know, everyone's got. They're all lying on the floor on the yoga mats,
Ha!
and she's going out with, like, it looks like a big bottle of hand sanitizer. It's like, it's lube. And they've all got their hands out lying on the floor, and she's pumping it into their hands. No, that's not right.
What?
Yeah, it's personal.
Yeah, it's a solo mission and like intimate, you know.
You
It's
know,
not.
take the sacredness out like that.
Yeah.
It boggles the mind. The muggles boggle the mind.
Yeah, Moggle's the bind.
And you're like, right, we have all these love stories, you know. I mean, like, I think the second time was in my early 20s. It's hilarious. When I look back, I had all Renaissance pictures, so I all had Lady in the Lake, you know, Excalibur, you know, all of that around the home. And you've got all these ideas of love and relationships and passion and whatnot, and it's all within our environment, and nobody's doing it. It's a bit like John Lennon, nobody said there'd be days like these. Do you know the song? Yeah. That's life.
Yeah.
Continually, isn't it? It's, you know, everyone's talking and no one's saying a word.
Yeah, because lip service. Where's the proper actions that are congruent with their words? Are we men and women true to our word? Are you valuing your word as if it's not just some watered down flim flam walla walla bim bam? No, like follow through, be responsible. We're adults, and like we should be living and following through with the
Yeah.
words and having the unity within the triune trifecta of your thoughts, emotions, and actions are aligned.
Well,
There's not.
that's your psychological triangle, isn't it? Of you think, so you feel, and then you behave, react. That's
Yeah.
your morality for it. And yeah, it is, but it's all wrong. And I think it's up to people who have got the strength to be able to stand there and go, yeah, okay, I'm going to put myself out there and I'm going to speak my truth. And I think that comes across, especially more so now. If you're not authentic, people are going to turn off. They're not going to listen to you because they can feel it, because it is that back to energy, right? But if we're brave enough to just go, I'm who I am, not apologizing for it, and I will take up my space, and that's up to you whether you want to press play or pause or just completely block this this channel altogether. But that's, the more that, I mean, can you imagine, you do know yourself, you've got somebody who you connect with the same truths. So what does that do for yourself? It makes you stronger, doesn't it? Yeah. Plus,
Yeah.
it's only ever going to do us good, isn't it, to go and get the truth out? Yeah, because then you're living in your own authenticity. When you can't go wrong by that. You literally cannot go wrong by being truthful, even if you might, at the time, have caused myself a lot of fuck up for being truthful. You you look at the bigger picture, and as you zoom out within time, within space, and you go, well, yeah. So you hold your space, don't you?
Yeah, and speaking from a place of truth, and wielding that sword, the sword of truth, it can divide the falsehoods from what is true, and that's going to rub people the wrong way. And people are going to interpret whatever anyone says to whatever degree, and like
They're
you
going
said,
to
it's free
interpret
will, right?
their own narrative to make themselves feel better about themselves, to be able to accept themselves when they know that they shouldn't. But that's on them. That's there's not a lot you can do. But the living proof, you live by your truth, and those around you or those who are accessing you or what have you, what are you doing for them? If I hadn't have had, I was brought up in love. We do things with love. I didn't know any other way. You do it with love. Okay. If I hadn't have had that, then I probably wouldn't be who I am today. But also, if I hadn't have had all that, you be a good girl, love, 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 I wouldn't have not integrated my shadow for it to be that much of a problem that I had to go through my dark nights of the soul and integrate it. And I'm sorry, but I like me. I am led by myself, and my agenda is my mission, which is to keep my truth, which is
Motion
love.
detected at the front door.
And if
Then
I
what's
hadn't have had
what's there to
that,
be sorry about, right?
yeah. Well, it's kind of like you just literally you have that around you and you can take it on. If I hadn't have had it, I wouldn't have taken it on. Similar would have been for yourself or for anyone else. We either live it and take it on, or we do our best to be the different to it. So we can only continue to do what we do. And I'm going to have to interrupt for 10 minutes. Do you want me back?
Yeah, please.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Give me 10 minutes and I will be
Take
all
your time,
yours.
no worries.
With being with him and going down that road. And that's how that all came to Metatron, to the Black Cube, to the False. And even like I'd found like in one of my Reiki books that I threw away a couple of weeks ago, he actually wrote Becky's whatever was ENJF, like a personality type,
Oh
crystal
yeah.
beta. He was spying on me for someone.
Huh.
I mean, before like internet, my crystals grow and change. They always did, and I identified avians, reptilians, smileys. All of this was going on at that time, and I felt so let down by God because it was all crazy fucking shit, Derek. And that's when I left, kind of like, I don't want to call it spiritualism, new age. I just pushed it away because I thought this is a fucking shit show. And am I crazy? Now, obviously it all makes sense, doesn't it? Especially being able to link up with you and go, no, that's what went on with me. And this is what's gone on with you. And then it just makes you wonder what is it about yourself that they're trying to stop? And again, that humbleness, isn't it? It's kind of like, well, I was like, take me after that fucking priestess from Atlantis. I fucking am. And all those years gone. So you start to fucking wake up again because you're a fucking alcoholic's daughter with an alcoholic and you have to break a generational curse.
Yeah, those are important to break, all these, negative feedback loops throughout, any individual's, generational lineage. Yeah, those are things that they can do on an individual level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of it. I have my own interpretations of what's gone on. And, I'm at the point now where I believe it is the truth because I've had so much confirmation. Mind control, Project Bluebeam. And it does sound like that's the whole point, isn't it? If it's crazy, you're just fucking crazy, aren't you? But, when you link it all up and you join those dots, it's not crazy and it's not the untruth, is it? And I think I've read in quite a few little bits of stuff like, well, if we make it into a film, if we do a book on it or what have you, and they come to us and they're having the same experiences, and you're just getting that from what you've seen in media. And it's so clever in so many ways, isn't it?
Yeah, this kind of like soft disclosure in an indirect way through different types of media that they be feeding us. And yeah, it's crazy how insidious these things can be. And yeah, they're throwing out the truth in all these fragmented forms,
Yeah.
so they can try to circumvent their own karmic repercussions for all the fuckery that they're putting upon us, type of thing.
Well, everything, isn't it? It's kind of like, let's just change the story to suit ourselves, which, obviously I've studied human nature because I've had to, because I'm like, "Oh, what, why'd you do what you do? I don't understand." And it is just a construct for somebody else's benefit. And when you link back into like the non-verbal autistic community and what's being released bit by bit, have you had a little look at the telepathy tapes?
Oof, no.
Oh, Derek. It's I just feel it's kind of like being able to have a voice and be different to the
Mm,
majority of the population, because for everything that I believe in and stand for and am, which is coming from the heart and from love, this is totally what this non-verbal community have a world of. And that's how they see the world. And that's how they have come back and they've said that, other planetary systems, that's just what it is. It just comes from love. But that's
ooh.
got, well, it is, isn't it? Do you know what? You get up in the morning, don't you? And everything that you do comes from the heart. Yeah?
Yeah, that daily operation operating from that center point,
Yeah.
0 point energy type.
Your
Yeah.
own sun in your own heart. And, that's on fire, isn't it? Yeah. And once you connect to, should we say, divine sun, right up, and that's right up there, and that's part of you. And you can breathe that down into your own sun, but you can also anchor that down so you're balanced and you're not all up there or all down there or in one construct or another. And when you live from that, you feel better. And, there was no other way as a little child, it was like, it's no brainer, isn't it? If I am me, coming from my heart and doing that makes me feel good inside. I don't like the way I feel inside if I'm not behaving from the heart, being from the heart. It's a bit like, when you wear clothes that are uncomfortable, like itchy wool or something that's tight or uncomfortable. That's how I feel inside if I'm not. Do you know what? If I tell the cat off because it's jumped on the bed and I've just put fresh sheets on and I've just gone, oh yeah, I feel awful. I didn't need to do that. But I've always been. No, and I'm single.
Yeah. It just doesn't always happen on a Catterday either, I'm sure,
Yeah,
right?
it doesn't always happen on a Canada. It's not a very happy Canada when I push her off the bed, is it? And it's that, when we're living from that fear-based system or the lack-based system or those imprints of, we're doing that, aren't we? We're coming away from ourselves, from our heart. And, when you're just left to get on with it and you are just that, and it's cultivating that. So I was watching this astrologer, Pam Gregory, and anyway, this beautiful other woman that she had on, who is having exactly the same experience with popping the golden liquid light back into the grids, and we're doing it and whatnot. But going back to Pam, she, like myself, she gets up, she goes for a walk, she's in with the trees. My life has always been, just let me look at the clouds and see the sunlight or the dew, or appreciate holding my child or being able to move even, Derek. I'm 2 years and 2 months off 50. I can get up a mountain pretty darn quick. I love my body. I love what it is. This vessel. Do you know what I mean? But the more that you fuel it with your own truth and being sovereign, it works better for you. And I feel happier. I say it's a no-brainer. I don't know, yes, I know. I've studied it. I've got a degree in it. There are people out there who are horrible and do nasty things to people and they get pleasure from it. I think it's called sadism.
Yeah, looshing out the energy. And there's, different methods, and the highest form of loosh, the most concentrated energy, is through PDF files. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
going to the chrome of a certain adrenal type of thing.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's very sad and very satanic, and draconian, vampiristic, and all these things. Yeah, for sure. Yet, aside from all that, I love where you're going with the trajectory of what you're talking about, of just living your divine sound song frequency from your soul essence that has been activated in your physical vessel. That is so powerful in this
It is.
galaxy. We're so, yeah, right?
Is.
The
And,
quintessence.
but, look at me. What, 5'2", 46, 47 kilos?
I thought you were taller than that. You
No.
look like it, buddy.
The silly, sensitive one of the family, the little girl that,
Aw,
yeah,
hey.
the disappointment, the black sheep, oh, look at her away with the fairies. Look how fucking strong I am.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, right. And that's it, isn't it? It is, my truth is my strength. You silly fools, aren't you, at the end of the day, if you're not using that for yourself? That's a bloody missed opportunity. Why siphon away your own energy yourself? It really, I think we can learn a lot from those of us who innately just don't bloody get the rest of them. I mean, they say, don't they, we're kind of like, we are, human 2.0 in the neurodiverse community, because we do things differently. We're talking to you, we expect you to understand what we're trying to say, because everything's here. When we look at someone, we see you. We see how your life experiences have put that energy that's behind that physical vessel. And, we can identify with that because we're so het up on sensation, energy, detail. And when you bring the divine feminine into that, what wants to bring that space of unconditional love for healing. Wow, how powerful! How powerful is that? And then you bring our orgasm on top of it. Fucking hell, watch out. But then you bring on that you're in your space and I'm in my space, and that is exactly what it is supposed to be.
Yeah.
That it's too powerful. No wonder. So we are going to have cats, even though it's not cat a day.
Yeah.
Hey, Margot, do you want to tell them about how I abused you?
All right.
Don't tell them, Margot.
Yeah.
I'm going to abuse the ginger one, and he will be castrated soon.
Oh,
It's got to be done. It's got to be done. I'm
too
sorry.
feral?
No, he's a ginger Tom, but the rag doll, I've got a lilac rag doll, and she can't take it anymore.
Ah,
He's not using the right energy when he's making love to her.
oof. Gotcha.
So about his own needs, Derek.
Mm.
And then she's taking on all his other partners when he's been out,
Oof.
tomming it round the houses, and he's bringing that back to my princess.
Yeah.
Why? She doesn't deserve every other sexual partner he's ever had.
Yeah.
Program. But laughing
shit.
aside, that's what's going on with us. Well, not us, but
Yeah. Well, what is going on with us? Just kind of in general, and like shifting it, yeah, back to like sexuality
Yeah.
and just like the real proper ways of making love. And yeah, you're talking about seeing the other person for who they are and all this stuff. And to reel it back a little bit more of just, all right, you're talking about, like standing in your truth, yet there's kind of like this new age trapping of that terminology, because people think, oh, this is my truth, when in fact, like, that just depends, because your subjective truth needs to align with objective truth and universal morality and principles and eternal axioms that are just there. They're non-man made, and those are things that we have to
Well,
be
that's it. Somebody's
observe.
truth could be, I need sex, I need to be
Ha!
adored, this, that, and the other. My truth is, whether you like it or not, I'm doing it. It's a universal truth, isn't it? It's a natural law.
Yeah, but I was
And the
thinking more of,
natural
I was
law
going
is
to reel it
energy
back in
exchange.
just real
Pardon
quick.
me?
Just to reel it back in, I
Yeah.
feel like what you were getting at in context to what you were saying was, standing in one's truth is like standing in one's power, knowing who they actually are, and just operating from there, that heart-based intelligence, right?
Yeah, it is. Like, when you're using it from your heart truth and not just that new age kind of like,
Ha!
it's a buzzword, isn't it? Just like anything else that'll come and go. And if you say it, then you fit in, don't you? And you're accepted, and because you're not strong enough to go, well, I know this and I don't know that and the other. But that, yeah, because it does give you power, because you've got your own blueprint. Okay, your own blueprint of how you're approaching, how you're expressing, sorry, that expression of source. Okay. The truth is, this is my energy, and it's something that's integral to me. And the truth is, it is painful to go without it for me. It is lonely. And I could fix that in a very three-dimensional way. Okay. But then there's my truth that my actions have repercussions. And the person that I am, somebody's getting an awful lot, and it's not a fair exchange. And I have given myself away to another, and I brought karma on myself. Now, I know I will be better with somebody that will exchange that energy in the same way as me. So my payoff is pain now. Is it pain? It's that fear again, isn't it? Oh, pain, run away, can't do this, can't save myself. What happens? Well, it's not exploded, because I've not shag for ages. Neither have I. I might do.
But it's a lesson learned, and it's like sometimes we got to learn the hard way, trial by fire. Yet, those are things to keep in mind so we don't make those same mistakes, type of thing.
Well, anybody will go to the gym, won't they, every night after work and go, oh, I went to the gym, I can do this,
Ha!
but can you actually take away something that you crave?
Yeah,
Can you?
going back to fasting, and that's a great way to discipline oneself of, taking everything away, anything you're consuming,
Oh,
even or do a
everything.
digital detox, right?
Digital detox,
How are you surviving
people
without all these things?
detox.
Yeah.
Even thinking detox. Don't think. Just acknowledge. Just fucking hell. When are we ever, still, when are we ever sat with nothing? That's why I go into the mountains, I go to the sea where there aren't people. Obviously, I go to the quiet places. If I
Ah,
see people, I'm like, oh, look at that, there's a person. Fuck off. Trying to take a picture. Yeah, you're in my way. I I gain so much from nothing. So what does that tell you? It's giving me the space for me. It's support. It's cradling. You can hear. And I love it. Do you know what? I went to top of some mountains, and I stayed overnight in the car with my dog. And most people would probably be a little bit scared by that. it was the safest I'd ever felt because I was with nature. I've got no fear. You know, if anyone comes at me, I'll smack them. It's fine. You know, I don't live in that fear state of a woman of like, oh, you know, come on, you know, Scrappy Doo. You probably don't know Scooby Doo and the little, but yeah, because I've got power because I'm a woman and no one's going to fucking try and do anything to me or the children, obviously, or the dog. But to have that ability to be able to sit in your truth and discover that you are lying to yourself about certain things to give yourself the go ahead to do something that you know you shouldn't. Right? You know you shouldn't. I'm sorry whether you're neurodiverse or not, you know whether you should or not. You know, if you want to go as deep as, you know, a Sperry split brain experiment of, you know, serial killers, and let's sever that amygdala and see what happens. No, you know. You're only lying to yourself. And then you've got the cheek to stand there and go, I've got a shit relationship, a shit life, the fucking world's falling apart, places are being bombed. It's not fucking fair. Yeah, but you weren't truthful with yourself, were you? You know, I mean, my nan, for all, God bless. You know, she's a Christian Scientist and whatnot, and just, oh my God, she spent her whole life trying to hide her dark bits. She was known as a saint. She was so fucking lovely, but not that became killing with kindness. It became, oh God, horrible, just as toxic and as destroying. But you know, you sit with things and you go, I know whether I am right or wrong, and so does Source. I gotta live with that. I know I was a bit rough getting Marg off the bed. I don't like that. I don't know why, I just don't fucking like being that type of person. You know, I'm not a goody two-shoes, obviously, am I? You know, a bit of a rebel, but
What kind of black
a
sheep
rebel
is?
with a beautiful heart that just sees people's pain, wants them to fucking sit with their pain and their truth, and then own themselves, because it becomes combustion and energy and power, and all that time that you waste complaining about the harshness, you know, before we take it back a few steps into what's really going on a superficial level. You, God, I mean, like, fucking, I was saying to Harry, like, you know, the church, and I'm like, Harry, you do realise, you know, all these wonderful buildings with all these riches inside, and you're there, and you've got to go and put the plate, this big gold plate comes around, you've got to put money on that. And are they, you know, are they opening the doors for the homeless every night? Are they stopping sex trafficking? Are they using the money on the collection plate to build a youth centre that? No. Do they even plant any fucking trees?
Detected at the
Sorry.
Is
You
it
know,
spiritual
and that,
welfare or what?
the joke's on us, isn't it? You're putting your money in their plate because that's going to give you free passage to heaven because they said so. What a fucking pyramid scheme. Sorry. But do you know, if you do something practical, don't you? Don't get me started. I'm going to be thinking about that after the news, aren't I, the past couple of days? Sorry. It's not my fault. It pops up on your news feed whether you watch the news or not. And as a divine feminine, can you imagine how it feels that they say, I've got to talk to that man to talk to God for me, or to tell me the things that I've done that is a sin?
Well, how many of these religions are patriarchal by nature anyway?
Well, that was the whole point. That was the whole point, wasn't it?
What kind of God are they depicting that's up in the clouds in, you know, all this farce?
That's false God, though, isn't it?
What about the creatrix, right?
Well, that's what it is. That's the whole bloody point.
Cosmic
We
egg.
have our pagan sites, yeah, but we will stick a church on them. So you can't go and do your stuff that you want to do where you should be able to do where the energies meet.
You
We
want
will
to speak
block
on
you
that?
from that. And then all the natural earth around that's been put there for reasons to help with us. You know, if you decide that you're going to use that for a cough, then I'm sorry, I'm going to fucking burn you or drown you in a river. If you are quiet and still enough to listen to yourself, and you know how to look for pattern recognition, maybe neurodiversity again, then again, we're going to fucking burn you or we're going to drown you. So shut up, little girl. Shut up. Keep quiet and hide. Or get your fucking third nipple out for the cat. Only on a cat a day. And that wasn't me now, but that's where we've had done to us and put into us. And
You're
we're
talking
still
about like
carrying that, whether we know it or not.
the generational traumas of, you know, the witch burnings and that kind of shit, and like the purging of druids and pagans, you know, due to Catholicism and the Christian, you know, Vatican mercenary fucking invaders. You know,
Again,
word to St. Patrick, that fucking fat prick, and all that shit, right? Speaking of which, are you familiar with the tribe, the Tuwa?
are they Amazon?
No, it's more. I think it's more Irish, ancient Irish. You know, back with the Druids. Okay, because I was gonna tie it into kind of like, yeah, like in regards to like the War of the Feminine. The group, the Tuwa, TWA. I feel like that got twisted or inverted to mean a derogatory term, and they added a T to the end.
Yeah.
I don't want to pronounce it, but you see what
Yeah.
I'm getting at, right?
Yeah.
It's fucked up, right?
Yeah. Again, but anything, isn't it? Anything that you don't like, you're going to put a difference. It's propaganda at the most basic level, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, it is propaganda. It is a bunch of whatevers trying so desperately to keep control. Because they can't put their hands up and say, we fucked up. We shouldn't have done that. Sorry. They
Oh,
can't
no.
do it, can they? They can't lose face. They've got to keep perpetuating this. Doing all of this for thousands of years.
Yeah, totally.
You know, but
Typical narcissist gaslighting techniques and all these things, right? The
well, yeah,
victim versus victimize, or
yeah. Nobody's they're
victimize
never
victim.
wrong, are they? Even though the evidence is in the face, and you know, you can have the biggest scandals ever towards the human beings that they have done, and they're still allowed to continue. Can you imagine if you or I did one act like that? Police would straight away, wouldn't they?
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know, it's just, yeah, and it goes back again. You know, kings of England, you know, the landowners, you know, and you can have this little bit of land and you work for us and we will give you the bare minimum and we will cause you to steal and then we will chop your fucking hand off. So we create that, well, not we, they created that whole set up to lose, set up to fail.
And if we act like them, we'll go to jail. Not like them, right?
Well, exactly. You know, we will make the situation and the environment so bad that human nature means that you will come to your lowest because of what we've created. It's dog eat dog. It's literally like dog eat dog. Whereas, you know, resources are there. It was all there. Why set it up like that? It's just all control.
Yeah,
Control of a false narrative.
and taking on this parasitic mind state, or the satanic mind state as well, and like the mini-me Satanist type of shit that the lower tier, you know, folks on within the hierarchy of this pyramid scheme shit that you're talking about, right?
I have seen, it shocked the hell out of me. Evidence of you got a little something, we'll boost that little something that you've got for a quick sale type of thing, for a quick get rich type of thing, for a quick, if you put the work in, like me and yourself, what, 20, 25, 30 years, and sitting with the fucking pain and taking all that shit and, being ostracized and, but standing in your truth. And the rewards are everything, aren't they? Because they're that peace, because of connection, because of divine creation, knowing your part. And it's indescribable, that feeling. It's smuddy, isn't it? It's what we're all searching for, but you can see, that lineage. Should we say, I think, perhaps beginning 1800s by mid 1800s America, and how that was then created then. And I've seen the link up with that generation to generation today, and can see how that quick get rich, use these powers quick, come to our side. Magic, rituals. They're doing all that they accuse us of doing. And in plain sight.
Yeah, plenty of secrets in plain sight. And I guess to kind of bring it back full circle, because I know it's getting close to that concluding hour, if you will. But yeah, in regards to how malignant society has been due to all this draconian conditioning, and it is, conditioning women to be out of their feminine, imbalanced in that regard. And yeah, on the collective, there's these little occult mockeries and jabs against the feminine, and it just kind of goes to the modus operandi of their violation of the feminine essence, principle of their being aggressors, like dominators and all this stuff. And that goes against the feminine principle of the non-aggression principle, or non-violent principle, right?
Right. When is a woman an aggressor? When she's hurt, when she's been ostracized, when she's been discredited for who she is. Wouldn't anybody? Why don't you smile and say thank you? Thank you for rejecting me for who I am. Ta, mate. Thank you for putting this all on me. Thanks. Of course we're going to show to a degree, aren't we? And what does a mother do? She will roar for her child, no matter what, or her partner, or anybody she loves. She will put herself there and she will be massive. She's got that strength, but our softness, how we heal in our, the divine feminine energy never asks for anything. Does it? It gives, doesn't take. It gives a space. It is space. It is an energy. It is love. It is just to sit in love. And that would, it heals more than any tablet, any fucking anything. I mean, you've sat in your mother's arms. She's not said a word to you and she's fixed you. Didn't cost anything, did it? It's strong. And that's all they really want themselves, I reckon. They want the mums. They want that love. And because they haven't got that love, they will try and control to fill the hole. The hole of separating, of becoming separate from source and each other and everything, and thinking you're individual without being part of a whole. You're part of a whole. You're only hurting yourself and everybody else. Makes me sad, Derek. It makes me tired. makes me very strong. It shows you your strength, doesn't it?
Yeah,
You know,
especially when you're standing in it, and
yeah,
you know the difference between what the world is showing you and who you actually truly are. 'Cause you just yeah.
that it's of insignificance to me, the world. I'm sorry, but it is. I'm sorry.
Get him.
It's not important enough. For what's going on in here and here, what we're doing here. What
You're
I mean,
pointing to
even just, my day to day, all I want to do is get up and be me. Okay. And that is, sitting outside having a fag and a coffee and going, oh, the birdies. Oh, look, I have got a tree peony that has flowered. Right, this sexy, hot little funky thing, right? I've got a tree peony from a deciduous tree peony. I'm fucking made up, Derek. And that's my pleasure. I'm not going to not pretend that's not who I am, because it's not taking a bag of Coke and fucking going getting pissed at the weekend and slutting it about. And so many women, divine feminine, will give all of who they are up just for all of that, just to fit in, just to close the doors at night and to live with themselves for not being in the truth. To take the shit from everyone, to go to bed each night thinking, who am I? What the fuck am I doing apart from being a servant? Pulled left, right and centre, being told, marginalised, expecting of everything. No, no more. Especially for this one. And as many people that can remember, listen, and just take a bloody look at themselves. The women that have been made to feel like nothing. Wasn't them that were telling themselves that, really, was it? It was the people around them saying you're not good enough, or you're only this, or you're that, or look, you can't do this, that and the other. Oh, look, you get all angry because you're stressed, because everything the world's put on you to try and fucking man up. You can't have everything taken away from you and expect to be at your best. But we can help, can't we?
Yeah, and we can kind of just help indirectly by not, getting all into this infighting and all these things, and splitting hairs and whatever the hell, and there's plenty of women on women crimes or aggressions, transgressions, whatever. That's like, hey,
I have found, to be honest,
like
a collection of women have never been my friends.
What?
Yes. I have never had a group of female friends. I've got a couple of good female friends who are just like myself, don't give a fucking shit. We'll say it as it is. But I cannot do it. I cannot go into that bullshit hive mind of pretense, of doing things that aren't you. And I'm sorry, but the majority of the population are like that. And they are not good to each other. Women don't support each other. Women will, they'll stab each other in the back to get a fuck off a bloke, wouldn't they? Because then they're going to feel better about themselves because they've been told that's the way it is. And on and
External
on and on
validation.
goes the fib,
Fuck.
no cheese spiral of false. Because we've never got that 0 point to anchor us.
Right. Yeah.
So just sorry. Right, I better go and do some normal stuff. But
No, you're good.
sorry, I'm angry. I'm angry, and anger
feel
is a
you.
fantastic emotion because my anger's in truth. It's not misplaced. I'm not
Yeah.
putting my pain and hurting another. I am standing here with passion, sitting here with passion and going, I lost so much, not because of me, but because of others around me, and because I didn't listen to my voice, and because how the divine feminine has been put underground, from fake narrative. But we wake up bit by bit, you know, and it's a popular movement, Derek. They like to jump on the bandwagon, don't they? You know, namaste. But it's not about that. It's about here, isn't it? And not about being all goody-goody. You know, people say, you know, you're so lovely, you're so nice, you know, but I am. You know, I love being nice. I love baking cakes for people and cooking Christmas hams and sticking a hot water bottle in the bed and the towels on to wear on the radiator when you get out of the shower. It's all warm. And
Oh,
I want those that are at my table to. These simple pleasures are so beautiful when held in love. You know, you can create the most beautiful environment to be happy for what makes you happy.
and that's
You
what
know?
that's what the feminine brings to a house. They make it into a home, and I love that. Yet, you
I've
know
never
what
had
you're
anything
getting at.
but a home, and each time I've had to pick myself up again. It's me that's created my home. It's my energy, my love.
Mm.
You know, and it is. It's what you put in. Like I say, how you cook a meal, how you wash the clothes, how you make. If you make a bed, or even I don't know whether you're still recording, but something called an angry blowjob. You've never had an angry blowjob. Yeah, when we put care into, you can tell the difference.
Yeah.
And what does that do for you when you receive that? It fills your soul, right? It gives you strength to go out and be you more so because you're loved for who you are. You've been given this love. And then when you go out, you've got a spring in your step. You know, you've got a smile on your gob because you've had love. Yeah, and that's what we do. That's what we do. And we're strong in it and we're clever and we can do fucking shit. But that's so needed and that is a fucking power, you know, to create a home and a family with no nonsense. So take your socks and put them in the washing basket and let's back your ass.
Right.
But right, on that note.
Yeah, but on
right.
that note, you know,
Yeah.
what you're getting at as well, it's like, all right, you're saying like, oh, people can, you know, see you as a bitch or whatever the fuck. It's like, no, you're just trying to set boundaries because you
Yes.
respect yourself and other people don't understand or can translate what the fuck that actually means.
When
Right?
you actually turn round to somebody and you state a boundary, it's taken as an affront on them, not as it's a protection for myself. Because how can I do what I need to do, who I am, express who I am genuinely at the highest level for me? Because I'm sorry, when I'm under stress, underappreciated, you know, all of that, I'm not my best version, Derek. Do you know
Sure.
what I mean? I get stressed.
And there's nothing to be sorry about. We've all been there, right? Yeah.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
when you say, I know myself, I've spent a lot of time because I don't want to carry on feeling like a piece of shit or in pain or crying or fucking up over and over again. I don't want to do that. I'm not a dickhead. Why would I want to hurt myself more and more? So then there has to come that point where you go, this will make me better in whatever I'm doing, more productive, a better version of Rebecca. Okay, I need this as me, as this person now, to have, I don't know, peace and quiet because I'm going to fucking smack you if I hear any more noise. You know what I mean? You know, or I will make a nicer dinner if you fucking leave me alone to do it. But it's not, it's never, it's just, but we're all that, aren't we? You know, you can't have the most fucking biggest marrow in the UK's bloody church farm bloody summer festival, right? If you don't treat that marrow right, with the right soil, right sunlight, right water, and I do talk to my garden and love it and stuff like that. I do talk to things. You know, if you don't do that, you're not going to have the best bloody marrow, are you? God, why is it all so fake? God. Okay.
Yeah. I
I'll
love
leave you with
that.
an angry blowjob then. But
Yeah.
you know what?
Put
It
that passion and
happens
anger into it, you
in
know?
this
Like, just
world, you know. I mean, why not? You know, we eat dinner. Sometimes we have angry blowjobs. And that's the whole point. You know, why can't people just stand there and go, Why do we lie? Why do we lie? Why do we make things up? What fucking hell? Oh well, I think I'm having the last laugh.
Yeah.
Right. All my love to you, you wonderful man.
Yeah, Rebecca. Thank you so much. Any other last words? Are you good? Or
I think I'm good now. I hope your editing skills are good.
yeah, sure.
It just to cut me up and out and again. No, I mean, it's authenticity. It's
Yeah,
truth.
I feel that for sure.
Yeah. You know, I mean, like, God, you just got to have the strength, haven't you, to be you? You know, and that's if one person, just, and I know they have because of my platform and what I do with my photography, you know, if you show your real self like you did to me, right? It's recognized, and that recognition, it's a portal for your own growth, acceptance. I think pass that on. Pass it on. Pass it on.
Lovely, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that fits in so beautifully and gracefully of what I was, trying to evoke with my last presentation on the funnel Freedom Under Natural Law conference of, being the authentic individual AI acronym in the face of, this artificial idiocy going on.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, totally. And that's the jokes with us now, isn't
Yeah.
it? Because we can we can do that. And it's artificial intelligence against that authentic individual. And the show, I was watching the Freedom, the last one, roundtable. On the adverts before, okay, so they're in a car, and it's he gets in the car, and she's like, "Oh, I know you've had a bad day," and she puts on an image of could be his wife and his child, and it's less AI, more human. That puts the fear of fucking God into me. That puts the fear of God into me. How easily they've slipped it in. It.
Insidious insufferance. Crazy shit, yeah. I feel you. Yeah.
And who's gonna have? I mean, can you imagine the lads who go out, and they get the new PS5, but you can't get it anywhere, right? They're on a waiting list and they need this or they need the VR. Oh, look, here's a chip coming. So I'm gonna have one of them. I'm gonna be the first. I'm gonna get on the waiting list. Implications are out of this world, aren't they? Literally.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Awareness is everything, isn't it? Sight is everything, and the ability to read between the lines and coming from a neurodivergent. Fucking hell, I'm doing all right, aren't I? I
Yeah.
might not know what people mean when they're trying to talk to me. I can read between the lines of what is shown me. I don't need their narrative to be able to interpret I can see what they're showing me. And if you want to interpret it in that way and listen to how they are explaining the interpretation, there's, as I say, there's always two sides to every story, isn't there? Go with the story, truth. Right, I've got to go. Right.
Yeah.
Much love. I will speak to you soon.
Right on, Rebecca. Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate your energy, your divine feminine wisdom and essence, and yeah, reading between the lines in so many different ways. We need that a lot more these days. So,
Bless you.
yeah.
Honestly, you are a portal of authenticity, which is
no.
a pleasure to allow into my energy. You make me feel that it can be done this way, and I respect and I honor your humor and your truth and your you, because it is one of the most refreshing things to view. It really is. And you're bob on. You really are bob on. So thank you for giving me the space and the opportunity to be able to anchor in the divine feminine, because we need to. And
Yes.
I'll continue with this at a later date if you would like to do a little bit more. And I will
Please,
see
yeah.
you in the flesh soon.
Definitely, Rebecca. Thank you so much.
Love. All right.
Much
Take
love.
care,
Yeah.
Derek.
Me too.
Bye.
Ciao, ciao.
And remember, there's no turning back.
Poised to peel back the layers, the soothsayers of illusion are crying sweet tears, tired of this amniotic pollution. Salt water, the solution. We're calling for ritual from the spiritual plane. We remain collecting artifacts for initiation, attracting the medicines for activation. Can you feel the reverberations of Gaia's natural vibrations, tracking the sacred migrations as healing spreads like threads of light of a soul angels in flight from the bird's eye view? We're crossing the realms, walking consciously through, slicing identity, awakening affinity to this path of service. Open heart divinity, deepest serenity. On this threshold, no time to be nervous. You heard this, there's no time to be nervous. You heard this, there's no time to be nervous. You heard this.
Into transcendent realms we travel, the gestating seeds of our dreams.